everybody? It's metalhead weatherman here. Hopefully everyone's doing well. So about a day ago, I got note that there was a new outlook for February issued by the Climate Prediction Center, or the CPC. So I'm gonna go ahead and dive into that real quick. Usually, if you're new to this channel, I'm just gonna tell you the little schedule. Even though there's not really a set day when I do this, usually towards the middle of the month, we try to get a little bit of a look ahead in regards to the upcoming month here. So this will be the first of two outlooks. We'll do one again at the end of the video. So hope you guys enjoy, and just in case you do, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new around here, definitely consider subscribing. We do this pretty much every month if we can, unless things are just really hectic across the board here if we're covering storm after storm. But that being said here, hope you guys enjoy. So let's go on and get into it here. So here's the first part of the outlook that we're diving into here. We're looking at the temperature outlook as well as the precip outlook here. So we'll start out with the screen on the left here, which is looking at our temperature. So interesting note here, and this is somewhat of an El Nino calling card. For those of you that don't know, El Nino is a big factor in a lot of the weather that we end up seeing throughout the winter months in particular, but really all four seasons as well. But in general, when we have what's considered an actual El Nino year, where we have, or a stronger El Nino year in particular, I have details on that in another video. That'll be in the top left corner, by the way. But in an El Nino year, not a La Nina year, neutral phased year, we'll end up seeing the northern states usually being a little bit warmer than average, and then usually equal chances or maybe even just below average temperature chances off to the south. We've seen a fair amount of that this year, and looks like the trend kind of continues into February. We're still kind of far out though to really get a look at some of those early forecast models. There's only a handful that you can really look at, and even then we're still not really in range of those just yet to look at the whole month. But some points of interest in particular have been the Northwest, which has been interesting because for a while now I've seen plenty of times where they've been cooler than average, but it seems like it's been pretty balanced. But looks like we're starting to see a little bit of a change begin to occur here. And then of course towards the Northeast is another point of interest, Northern Plains as well. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. And then Alaska actually looks like they're going to be above average predominantly in the entire state. So that's going to be, so that's kind of telling of things here, because sometimes when you can almost see a little bit of a giveaway whenever we have those cold blasts coming in, because usually there might be one little part, particularly up towards the north or northeastern parts of Alaska, where you can see that below average temperatures, cooler than average look kind of coming in. But just here's something I always have to make sure I remind anyone watching this video here. This is an outlook, it's not a forecast, and most importantly, these are prone to changing, and this does not determine every single day within a 30-day period, or in this case 29. So onward to precipitation, screen to the right here. Above average precipitation, this is definitely an El Nino year calling card, where we see a lot of activity over towards the Gulf, over towards Florida. Florida having a very high chance of above average precipitation here. We're sitting at the 60 to 70 percentile here, and then over towards the Southeast in general, particularly towards the Gulf, is where the higher chances exist. Interesting thing to note here, as the weather pattern is expected to change here, especially as we break through this cold snap, we do see a pattern where we start to dry out over here towards the Great Lakes, which is probably welcome news to a lot of people over here, because mainly we've been dealing with a lot of lake effects. Now, a lot of storm systems have been making their way through here as of late. But as I've said before, just like with the temperature outlook, this does not determine how all 30 days are going to be. You're not going to get into a drought necessarily just from this outlook here. So there still may be a couple of systems here or there, but eventually we may drop off to a point here where we see below average precipitation for the month as a whole. Same thing with these areas that have the above average precip here. Same thing. It does not mean that every day it's going to rain or you get snow or severe weather or whatever it may be, but there is an increased chance of having an above average month in regards to precipitation. You can see the same thing going on towards southern Alaska in particular. So this is just also an indicator of just how active the storm pattern may yet be. But it's really just going to be how the jet stream ends up being set up, and we'll have to kind of touch up on more of the details in the next outlook in regards to how that's going to look here, of course. But one thing that I can also find just based off this indication is that it looks like a little bit over towards the southern areas of the west coast here, and maybe towards the southwest, we may see an increase in precipitation here as well. We've seen our fair amount of precipitation here, but it looks like that trend is going to continue here. All right, so moving on now to what the forecast models are kind of looking like. Like I said, I can't really get too far in the range. It's really hard to look at model data that goes out further than 2 weeks here. But there are a couple of indicators here that I can look at from this run here that kind of show me that there may be more cold blasts, also warm-ups ahead here in the month of February. So it could be a potentially tumultuous month here. Weather's going to be doing a lot of flip-flopping here. But right now, here is what is likely to be our warm-up. In fact, it will be our warm-up here. You can see that represented by this warm air mass here in the red. And then here's our cold air masses in the blue. So this is what you call an oscillation here. And what we're looking at is the Arctic oscillation up here. Really far up north towards the North Pole. Our cold air is back in place. So we're kind of getting back to where we should be. However, this little piece right here where we have that warm air mass coming in, what I want you to pay attention to is what happens when we go into the next frame here. How this eventually starts to work its way over to that oscillation here. So we're starting to get into what might be a positive AO, and positive AOs, and I've done a video on oscillations too, and link to that of course will also be in the top right. But what will happen when we start to get into a neutral or positive phased AO is that the jet stream tends to get a little bit more distorted and that cold air starts to move in. And here is actually an example of that. You saw it getting a little bit warmer, and look at this cold air that's starting to work its way into the picture here. So as we go through February, we may see a couple more cool downs here or there, even though for the most part it still looks like it's going to be warmer than average. But maybe as we go towards March, it may be another feature we have to look at, maybe some more cold air. Just how significant it'll be, as I've said in every video, I'm not going to put a lot of merit into this one, because the simple fact that this is so far out, we are looking 6 weeks out in advance. This could literally be gone within the next 6-hour run here. So don't put too much merit into it. This is kind of just what I'm seeing right now. And of course, this is why we're also doing an update video towards the end of the month to see how things have progressed since then. So that being said here, something to kind of keep in the back of your mind here. But that being said, let's go ahead and actually look at what some of the values are looking like currently in regards to temperature and for moisture. So here we are currently as we go into the month of February. Really warm start to the month, not surprising considering we had that ridge that I've been talking about in the other videos. But here's where we're going to expect to be warmest, of course, over towards the eastern half of the U.S. It's definitely kind of got the look of a somewhat of a false negative PNA, even though it's going to be pretty warm out west too. But just the warming trend itself is going to be pretty significant as we go through the start of the month here. And then as we go to the second week of February here, we're starting to see things kind of level off just a little bit. Not quite as warm, a little bit more towards the average temperatures unless you're out west here. Mainly towards the Rockies is where we're going to be seeing warm up here. This does somewhat concern me though, because of the fact that we have had a lot of winter precipitation over here. And if this thaws too fast over here, some ice flows, maybe some flooding could occur with this. So I'm hoping that this doesn't end up being the case here. Maybe not extreme warm up, but definitely something that we're going to have to be on the lookout for. Of course, we'll be keeping an eye on that situation on the channel as well. So as we go on to the 15th here, there's another little warm up going on over here to the west in particular. It's pretty significant temperature differences over here. Keep in mind this index here is in Celsius, but so to put in perspective for you, 7 degrees Celsius, that is a significant, and I mean significant, warm up there. That's a significant contrast, to say the least. So we could be talking maybe 20, 30 plus degrees above average here. So almost could even feel like spring in this area. So as we move forward here, of course, just like we saw with the air masses over here on the height anomaly, it does look like towards the east we start to see a little bit of a cool down begin to occur. And maybe towards the end of the month we may start to see a little bit of a shift once again. So like I said, we may start out the month relatively warm, but we may see a few shifts here and there. And keep in mind, we're only looking at it by a weekly basis. We can't look at it by a day-by-day basis. Those models aren't in range yet. So with that in mind, take this still with a grain of salt. So the next thing we'll look at is what we're currently dealing with as far as our precipitation outlook is concerned. Of course, no surprise, for the most part it matches exactly what we saw on the precipitation outlook. Southeast looks particularly active, out west is particularly active, and then over towards the mid-Atlantic, northeast, and the Great Lakes were slightly below average there. And for the most part, the pattern does hold. There is a little bit of a difference here over towards the southwest. We're a little bit drier than expected, but for the most part we do start to see that switch over occur, and then of course the southeast looks like the point of interest after that. So like I said, same thing with the temperature outlook here. You can't really put too much merit into this right now. This is not accounting for every storm system that may not pop up on the model data, because keep in mind, these storm systems that we're anticipating to come through haven't even formed yet. No conception has occurred here. But that being said, take it with a grain of salt. Just keep an eye out on things. You know I will be on here at this channel, so this will be a good stopping point for you guys to or a good point for you guys to check things out here on the channel, especially some of the more recent videos we've done here. That being said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. You found it useful. If you did, you know what to do. Smash that like button. If you're new here, again, definitely consider subscribing. Also hit that share button, and of course get that notification bell, get notified of all updates on the channel here. That being said, appreciate you being here once again. I'll see you guys in the next video. It's been Metalhead Weatherman. You guys take care.